All right, guys, thank you all for coming out today. What we're doing here is our sim table simulation. I have to ask again, is anybody else allergic to walnuts in general or nuts at all? Okay, so if you are, here in a minute, whenever I ask you to step up to the table and fill it, if you are allergic, please do not stick your hands in this. This is crushed walnut, okay? So my name is Eric Hill. I'm with the City of Pigeon Forge Fire Department. I'm the Wildland Fire Coordinator for the city, as well as the FireWise Community Leader for the City of Pigeon Forge. The gentleman standing right over here at the keyboard, that's Corey Gettner. He's gonna run the table for me, that way I can talk. So what we have here is our simulation table. We can use this in training applications for new firefighters, or I have taken this out into the schools and let kids play with it and see what we do as far as any hazards that we might see. This table is not just for wildland fires. We can do hazmat incidents on it. We can do flooding, and also for the county government level or the city governments, we can start looking at evacuation zones if we start having incidents in certain areas of our county. This table is being deployed on any emergency incident that goes into an extended operational period. So anything that's going to last over 6 hours, and we have a large scale response, either myself or someone from the City of Pigeon Forge will actually take this out either to the Emergency Operations Center in Sevierville, or we'll take it to the physical command post of wherever the incident's located in the county. So we have chosen an area inside our county. I will not disclose this area for various reasons. I will tell you this is an area we've never experienced a fire in to this point, so I don't want to disclose it just in case anybody's there. Corey, if you can, take the map layers off. Perfect. All right, so you guys see all these different colors that are right here on the table. The blue and the purple, those are depressions in the area as far as a topo map. And then the red areas, those are high, like ridge lines and stuff. So in order to do this, what we do is we'll take everything from the low area and we'll start building that map up. So if some of you guys want to step in here and start building this map up, remember the dark red areas is like a ridge line, so you're gonna make that area higher, okay?
It's like sand.
Yep. And if you guys just want to grab it and just pull it up just like that. Do you have, put it on, make sure pan and zoom on. That way they don't start moving the map around. Anybody that might have a watch on. Okay. All right, I believe that looks pretty good, spot on for that area. All right, so Corey, if you will take the elevation shading off for me, please. Some map layers right here. And then if you will turn on Bing Hybrid for me, please.
You all wouldn't believe how difficult it is to run a mouse upside down.
So, as you can see, this is the Walker Trail area, okay? This is how it's built up in this area. You've got the road lines, you've got the high ridges. So the reason that we want to be able to build this area up is that way if we start putting fire right back down in here, we can start seeing what it's going to do moving up slopes. Or if we start seeing a fire at the top of a ridge line, we know fire is going to move slower down a slope. That way, whenever it starts moving down a slope, it's slower. If it starts moving up a slope, we know we need to get resources in that area, or we might need to start evacuating certain areas of that. Hit fire. And then, so inside this computer, we have built in dozer crews, hand crews. So when we talk a hand crew, we're not talking what we send out here. We're talking about the national standard, National Wildfire Coordinating Group of a hand crew being at least 20 personnel. So when they start deploying hand crews, this modeling is off of a 20-person hand crew, and then a dozer crew, and then we also have the aerial attack and stuff that we can place. And you'll also notice right there on the top of that ridge line, it says ambulance. We can stage resources where at on this map we want to. Place flames.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right.
Where you want them at?
Wherever you want to.
Let's put, what do you think? Does that look good?
That look good right there? So you'll see that fire's starting to grow very rapidly. That fire right there in 6 hours has consumed 8 acres. So we're at 9 hours now. Corey, if you will, hit pause. The nice thing about this table is in real life, we cannot pause an incident and hit restart. So you guys see how that fire's starting to move. And the big thing with the pause is, so we've got the fire actively flowing or running. When we start placing our resources to see if they're going to be able to get a hand line around this or dozer line around this, in 11 hours, we've burned 14 acres. So we know if we've not got around this fire and contained it, we can hit pause and reset, and we can move those resources to a different area and see if they're going to get ahead of this fire quicker. Where this comes into play with Hazmat, we can set a Plume Effect, and we can base it off the wind speed and the direction, the different humidity levels with wildfire or Hazmat. So right now this wind speed is at 54 miles an hour going southeast. So we can change that to 0. We'll hit reset.
We're not playing cards.
Sure you want to reset? I do want to reset.
Yep. You'll have to go back. Well, no, you shouldn't have to. So he can set fire on the ground again. We've got 0 wind speed right now, blowing from west to east. And in an hour, we've consumed an acre in an area right there. So we know if we don't get resources around this fire quickly, we don't get aerial assets on this fire, at 3 hours, we've burned 3 acres, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. So, and you can also slow time down. I think it's 200. And that's another beauty. We can speed up time or we can slow time down. So a couple of weeks ago, when we had the Hatcher Mountain incident, the Friday night in the command post, I was the safety chief. I set this table up just to see what the fire was going to do that night in certain areas. And what I was seeing in real life is what the table was showing me. So, because our wind speeds had dropped, everything, we had lines around this fire. What I was checking for is to make sure we weren't going to get a fire jumping a road or anything like that and take off again. So I was able to predict what was going to happen several hours in advance. And when it hit that point in the night, it was about 4 a.m., the fire had done exactly what we had predicted off the table it was going to do. The downside to this table is my max wind speed is 66 miles an hour. The wind speeds were higher on the initial day. That's why this table wasn't deployed at that time. But anytime we have wind speeds under 66 miles an hour, this table, we should be able to predict fairly recently of what's going to happen in these areas.
Is it of any help whatsoever if the wind is higher than that? I mean, can you get any idea? Not really.
Once you get over 66 miles an hour, and I've talked to the creators of the table, there are hundreds of these tables deployed nationwide. I've talked to people in CAL FIRE. I've talked to people all out west. They use these tables on a very regular basis out there. Once you get over that 66 miles an hour, your fire conditions are so erratic, you're unable to predict. Yep. So we've also talked with the developers. They're working on a update for the table, but it's not going to be as accurate as it is with those lower wind speeds at this time. So, another thing about this table is, so pull up map players.
I've seen hail damage on people's houses that literally was all around the
Yep.
house. And it's only possible for the wind to spin around their house.
Does this show the fuel? Yep, fuels. So you'll have to turn off Bing.
That should be it, right?
Did you select fuels right here?
Yeah, that's for density.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So the National Weather Service, hit pause. They're going to see the fire. And then the National Wildfire Coordinating Group and stuff, they get together and they have the satellites up in space. They're taking pictures all the time of the Earth. Well, they have technology on board of these satellites that when they're taking pictures, they're seeing fuel loading and densities of areas. And that has been uploaded into this map so we can see what type of fuels are on the ground from the satellite imagery that they have taken. Yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to be dumb. What do you mean fuels are on the ground?
So as in like the type of trees.
Oh.
So
okay.
the one,
What kind of gas station?
nope,
Okay, I'm
nope.
sorry. I got
So
you.
when I speak of fuels, I'm talking anything that will burn.
Okay.
Structures, trees, leaf litter, anything like that. So they're taking these pictures and they're uploading it into this, which helps us because what type of fuel we're getting in the area is going to predict or help or hinder our fire attack. Your fuel intensity, the rate of it it's going to burn off the different types of fuel models we have. So they upload all that in there. I'm not seeing the type of fuel intensity or the burn intensity that I'm on here that I'm seeing out in the field. I can change the fuel modeling to something a little worse to see if it's going to happen or what's going to happen. We've used that a couple of times to help predict evacuation areas and training aspects and stuff. So if Corey wants to hit reset and he wants to bring back up Bing,
Well, I have a question while he's doing
okay?
What happens if you tell people to evacuate and people like Leroy Helton don't want to get out of there? What do you do?
Okay.
I know he eventually left, but I'm going to tell on old Leroy.
We can,
He's known to be stubborn.
we can ask for a voluntary evacuation of an area, or we can also request Sevier County government or the city governments to issue what they call a mandatory evacuation. Voluntary evacuation and mandatory evacuation are the exact same thing. I cannot physically lay my hands on a resident and remove them from their house in the state of Tennessee. That is considered kidnapping. All we can do is ask them to leave. And usually if we ask them to leave in a mandatory evacuation area, if we're asking you to mandatorily leave, we're leaving the area as well, 9 times out of 10. So we can ask you to leave. If you choose to stay, we're usually giving you a message, hey, we're leaving the area. We're not coming back in until it is safe for our people. So we're going to do everything we can to get you to talk you into leaving, but we cannot physically force you to leave.
So you can kidnap Big L.
we cannot kidnap people.
Okay.
But a lot of times whenever we sit there and we start explaining to them, hey, we're leaving the area as well, people are coming with us, okay? So we can't physically remove them, but once we start talking to them, a lot of times they're gonna start listening to us because we're leaving an area. So, Corey, if you wanna pick somewhere else to put fire on the ground and slow the speed way down, we're gonna quickly show you, we're going to show you putting a dozer line versus hand crew. We also have it in the system where we can use aerial assets as far as aircraft or helicopter water drops. And if they're going to make it to the fire front before it crosses that area, we've put a line.
I got a question. Do we have the helicopters here, or do y'all just use
So
the National Guard?
the National Guard, McGee-Tyson Air Base, they have 2 or 3 helicopters, Blackhawks with Bambi buckets that we have to request through the Sevier County Emergency Management Agency, because it being a government agency, it has to go from Sevier County EMA up to the state of Tennessee, or Tennessee Emergency Management, and then through the governor's office and stuff like that. So that's usually why it takes us a little bit longer to get aerial resources in the area. But we do have access to multiple helicopters out of McGee-Tyson. The National Park Service, and down in Chattanooga, they actually have a fixed wing aircraft that is capable of doing retardant drops in the area if it is in the area working. Back there in Hatcher Mountain, those resources from Chattanooga were committed out west in Texas and stuff, so we're unable to get them. So if you want to put either dozer line or a hand crew. Okay. So come off Starcrest Drive right there. Good old PJ's gonna come off Starcrest and drop him down to, you wanna drop down to Walker Trail?
Walker Trail sounds good. Let's do it.
It's,
Yeah, it's doable. I'm at least putting you down slope. So, and once he hits play, that dozer's going to start working, or they're going to start cutting that line at at the dozer speeds. So, we're going to see if the dozer's going to make it ahead of the fire. Well, the fire's traveling up slope there, not down slope. And you'll notice as the fire comes up slope with that dozer, once it burns over that dozer, that dozer will be black, and we know it's been lost at that point. So we know to hit reset in our simulation and try again. I'd much rather do this in a simulation than burn up my dozer operators from the Tennessee Division of Forestry.
I think you would agree, huh?
Bring them off Majestic right there over to Starcrest. That fire's gonna. And a lot of times the fire on this simulation table will stop where the roadways are because it sees that as a fuel break. Maybe not up in this area so much because the fuel loading, but say we were to go to the Parkway in Pigeon Forge, the Parkway in Gatlinburg, something like that, a more urban area, it's going to see that urban area and it's going to stop there because it sees it as a fuel break. So, does anybody have any more questions? Okay.
So you do a hazmat?
Yes, we can do hazmat on here. Neither one of us, I've not messed around with it much.
Yeah, it's essentially used more for us to be able to predict an area to evacuate. So if we have, let's say we have some kind of fuel spill, we can simulate that fuel spill and then figure out exactly where we need to evacuate or what area we need to evacuate. And all that's, of course, based on weather, wind speed, things of that nature.
We didn't have that when I was having that train. That's why I was asking.
We're pretty fortunate to have this table. We were actually, I think, we're like one of the first 10 people in the country to receive this table. So it's
And
a
right
pretty
now,
neat tool.
right now there's 3 that I'm aware of inside the state of Tennessee. The Tennessee State Fire Commission at the Fire Academy in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, they have one that they use 100% for training. The University of Tennessee has one on campus, and then we have this one. And then I think there's one more on the East Coast in either North Carolina or up in Virginia. I can't remember exactly where, but the bulk of these tables have been deployed out in the western states of the country.
If someone, another state were to have a really bad situation,
Okay?
would they be able to call you and say, blah, 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 let me see
They-
the information? Could you help them in any way, or
If they were to reach out to us, yes, we could.
Okay.
So
if they didn't have?
with this table, so we set this scenario, or we saved this as a scenario, and we have over over 200 scenarios already created inside the system. So we were to go in that scenario database. I can pull up any table in the country. If they're currently running a scenario, I can pull it up and I can shoot it onto my table. So a couple of years ago, a couple of us had the table set up. They had the car fire out in California taking place. Cal Fire was using their table, and we pulled that incident into this table, and we were able to see what they were doing at that time. So if another state was to reach out to us and needed this resource, it would be available to them. But at this time, we've not had anybody. So.
I just wondered if someone wasn't as fortunate as us that
Yep.
have one. That
So, any other questions? All right. Thank you all for coming.
I wish we'd had something like it when we was doing hazmat.
Hold on, baby. I'm talking about.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Why do you use walnut instead of sand?
So the manufacturer, when it was purchased, we asked them what type of media base they wanted to use. And all their tables, they use this walnut, crushed walnut. They said it builds up better than sand, and it don't get as nasty as sand over time.
Oh, okay.
So this crushed walnut that's in here right now is over 10 years old, and it's been used over and over and over again, multiple times in multiple scenarios, with firefighters that have ash and everything on their hands.
Yes,
And
I started that.
and you guys noticed it still looks like crushed walnut. So,
For me.
yep,
But that would be real handy, like you said too, on hazmat.
Yep.
So you know which way the fumes, which way the fume, get out of the fumes.
so.